final sort of moment in the series of Kingdoms in Conflict. I'm going to have, we've had the triumphal entry. A few weeks ago, we had the flipping of the tables in the temple. Then we've had a few sort of harsh teachings and parables for a few weeks. And we're finishing up that series with something this morning that's something easy, fun, non-controversial, low risk, low stakes, politics. It's going to be a fun, easy, light little morning with each other. So we're going to be in Matthew 22, 15 through 22. If you have your paper, it's on the back side of that. If you don't have a paper, if we ran out, you just use your phone. We won't judge you. We will have the benefit of the doubt that people are not scrolling Facebook. They're committed to the Word of God if they're staring at their phone this morning. So let's take a minute this morning to read it like we usually do, and then I'll have you turn to your table, your neighbors, and be able to sort of talk it out together. But like we usually do, I want to give you 3 or 4 minutes to be able to read it, digest it, discern it on your own first. So, Lord, open up your word to us. Without you and your indwelling spirit and the power of your spirit, the revelation and wisdom of your spirit in us and in this room, it's ink on a page, it means nothing. But God, speak to us through it. Bring revelation, bring conviction. We open our hearts to you, we open our ears to you. We open up our hands of expectation of what you might want to say, and we say, Lord, say what you want to say. Bring what you want to bring. Show us what you want to show us. It's in your name. Amen. Go ahead. Okay, why don't you go ahead and turn at your tables, or if you're not at tables, just grab like 3 or 4 people around you and just start talking it out. I mean, this is we've seen this passage before, we've read it before. It's, some of the lines are quite common, but maybe what are things that you noticed on this reading, things that stuck out to you on this time that you read it, things that you found curious, interesting, or questions you had. Just talk at tables a bit about it. Go ahead. Okay. Maybe finish up your final thoughts. If somebody's sharing, you can give them a second. Final little thoughts. Now, usually, after having like a little bit of small group dialogue, usually we'd grab a mic, we'd run it around the room, and we'd have like a whole group dialogue. We'd have like a little bit of Bible study. We'd have like this massive all-out thing. If I can have a measure of grace this morning, I'd love to just jump in because I'm trying to be brief, and I'm trying to preserve time this morning so that we have those of you who are wanting to stay for that after meeting. I don't want to end at like noon, and then we sort of feel rushed. And I do want that meeting to sort of just feel like, for those of us who are staying for it, to just be sort of a continuation of worship, continuation of our meeting. So if you'd allow me to be able to just jump right in. Very non-controversial passage. I was listening to a lot of your conversations. Just seemed like mostly just agreement. I heard Bonhoeffer coming up over here, so that's not much to talk about. Not much to talk about. I do feel like I guess if there's an overall main point or main theme that I just want to explore together, both as individuals, as microchurches, and as a community of leaders, is to explore how all of our loyalties and our allegiances are an act of obedience to our primary allegiance to Jesus alone. Which is essentially means that we do have, there is such a thing as having an allegiance to Jesus, but he invites you into other loyalties, other allegiances, other things to be in submission to. We don't actually just have one all the time. But those things are always actually an act of obedience. They're downflow from our primary allegiance to Jesus alone. It's a bit of a sophisticated attack on Jesus here. It's a bit of a well thought out plot. I mean, if I was in like the planning committee, I'd be like, we got this locked tight. It's a great plan. There's no way he's going to get out of this one. It's partially well coordinated, this trap that they're setting for him, because of the audience that they assembled. It's a very complex audience that they've intentionally assembled. That usually would not get along very well. Usually would not be in the same room with each other. And it's unclear to me if they sort of just invited them to be in the room, or if all those complex audiences have agreed to this plot. A sort of holy union of an unholy union of people that would never actually get along, but they found a reason to work together, which is sort of common enemy theory. But this is a very complex audience. You have the Pharisees. You have probably a crowd of people involved in this conversation that are overhearing it. You have the Pharisees, a broad, not just the planners, but the broad community of Pharisees who hated the Romans. I mean, they hated Roman occupation. They hated Roman law. They were what you could maybe call, their worldview would be something close to religious nationalism, where they believed like the people, the Jewish people, the people of Israel, should actually be under a law that mimics almost like a theocracy. Like there should be laws in place that actually help us be God's people, not anything else. We want there to be no such thing as a separation of church and state, religion and state. Those things should be one and the same. And so their worldview led them to hate Roman law. I mean, it's and Roman occupation and Roman oppression and Roman systems and Roman obligations. And they would even sometimes see those Roman things that they would have to participate in as an act of potentially adultery. If those things are indicating worship of Caesar, if paying the tax could be construed as worship of Caesar, if obeying Roman sort of stipulations or systems would be construed as we acknowledge what Caesar says about himself, and those things would be an act of worship. They would even try to get away from doing those things, resist those things, find any way to get out from them. And then there would be such a thing as a bit of a spectrum there. There would be maybe moderate Pharisees, who sort of understood nuance and were maybe a little bit pacifist. But then there would be extremist Pharisees that they would sometimes call the zealots. That actually believed we are going to resist, and we're even willing to do violence to resist this Roman oppression and to not actually partake in what we perceive to be idolatry. So you'd have, even in that community of people, you'd have some zealots in the crowd, you'd maybe have some moderates in the crowd. And then you had the Herodians. And the Herodians that they actually mentioned by name that were there were people who actually supported the Roman-backed Herod. Herodian. So they're essentially, the Herod would be it was like a Roman appointed position that would almost be like a governor or a mayor of the Jewish people. And they were actually embedded in the general Roman system. And Herodians would basically see God was at work in appointing that person. And the way that we know what God wants for us is through that person. We respect everything that person does. We listen to everything they say. We do everything they ask us to do, including anything downflow from Caesar that comes through that Herod. We're going to be in total submission to all those things. It's one and the same. Like God, don't come against God's anointed Herod. And we're full support of a Roman-backed Herod. Some conduit of God. So they get all these people in the same room who not only have different opinions around what you could call ancient Near East politics that they were in, but have formed their identities around those differences. And have very strong opinions. Gather them all in the same room, and then they have some questions for Jesus. But before they get to those questions, a gotcha question, if you know what a gotcha question is. Gotcha. Before they get to their gotcha question, they have a few introductory remarks. They have a few where they have a bit of what you could call a performance before they get to the question, where they have false flattery, where they say, "Oh, teacher. Oh, good teacher. Oh, amazing teacher. You've got so much integrity, don't you? Jesus, you always say out loud exactly what you think and believe. You always stick to it. You never change. Oh, integritous, brilliant, wonderful teacher, Jesus. And you always teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. You're always telling the truth. You're always hearing. You're always hearing directly from God when you say that truth. And not only do they do false flattery, but they also start to do what I would call tactile manipulation. You're not swayed by others. Before we ask this question, just wanted to confirm before everyone, you're not swayed by others. You've never been swayed by others, by the opinions of others. And you never pay attention to who they are. So in this crowd of people, you're not paying attention to who's here and the opinions they might have and the differences of opinions they might have. You're not paying any attention to anyone in this room, what they think or believe. And even if you did pay attention to such things, you certainly wouldn't be swayed to give an answer that caters to what they think or believe before asking a controversial question. You've never experienced that, have you? False flattery, manipulation before, gotcha. My kids do this all the time. It's kids, man. It's kids. Kids. My kids do this all the time. I remember a couple years ago, I was sitting on my couch, and Landon and Jackson, my two boys, they came walking into the living room together from their room. So you already know there's a problem. Came walking into the living room together from their room, and Jamie was sitting on the other couch, and they sat both of them on the two sides of her and just started snuggling her. And I thought, we are in trouble. I don't know what's happening here. I don't like it. And they didn't say a word. They just snuggled. They just gave it time. And then Landon just sort of out of nowhere was like, you're a great mommy. This is getting worse. I'm very afraid what's happening here. And they wait a little bit longer, and Landon again says, I noticed you got a load of groceries. Fridge seemed full. Some stuff in the freezer that was interesting that I noticed. And Jamie was like, yep, we did get groceries. This did happen. Good observation. A little bit longer passes, and he says, boy, we sure worked hard today in the backyard. It's hot out there. It's Florida. Jackson didn't say a word the whole time. So clearly, when they hatched this plan, Landon was like, "Now let me do the talking." you know, I've got this. I've got this under control. And eventually, just turned both of them puppy eyes up to mommy. Can we have the ice cream? That we saw in the freezer because you got the groceries, and now we worked really hard and we said we loved you and we've been snuggling you for an hour and we've prepped you for this catalytic question that we have for you. All this coordination, this flattery, this manipulation leads to the entrapping question, is it right to pay the imperial tax to Caesar or not? The entrapping question. Climax of the plan. The gotcha. If you say yes, you're going to tick off all the Pharisees. They're all going to be frustrated. Jesus, with his growing reputation and his growing influence, and he's in sort of the final week of his life, and it's all coming to a culmination, and all the Pharisees and the Herodians would be so threatened by it, and they don't like what he's saying. He's giving warnings and woes, and he's saying harder and harder things about the religious system, and their power's threatened, their worldview's threatened, their livelihoods are threatened, and they're just wanting to come after him, and they're like, we got to cut this guy at the knees somehow. Trap him with this question to try to at best, cut down his influence, at worst, maybe convince these people to kill him. If he says yes, he's going to tick off the Pharisees. And maybe they'll walk away, they'll quit on him. The zealots are going to reach for their swords. And be like, I thought we were with this guy, and now we're against this guy. Based on that question, based on him saying yes, that you should pay that tax. Or if he says no, he's going to tick off the Herodians. No. You do not need to acknowledge, submit to, appreciate, show any loyalty to the Roman system in any way. Even if that system is passing through the Herod, you can directly defy the Herod. If he says yes, he's in trouble. If he says no, he's in trouble. If he weasels out of it, they're going to call him a coward. He'll make enemies of both of them. Using political gotcha questions to trap and destroy emerging influences and divide communities. This doesn't happen anymore, does it? It's not a thing that we see. It's not a strategy that we see. It's hard for us to relate. In our time, what is the quickest path to eroding a Christian leader's reputation? Ask them publicly, do you support Donald Trump? It is the quickest path to attempt to erode an emerging Christian leader's reputation. If they say yes, half the people that like him are going to hate him. If they say no, half the people that like him are going to hate him. If they weasel out of the question, everybody thinks you're a coward. One way or the other. I was trying to think of like a specific actionable situation rather than just like a generalized, like do you support a person or not support a person, like a thing that people would be asked to do, or a specific thing to have an opinion about that felt like lighting a fire, and it was like dividing people all over the country. And there's not now we've got a dozen of those. I mean, those are not hard to come up with. Every week, just log into Twitter right now, you'll find 5 of them. So. But I was thinking over the last 6 or 7 years, I don't know why I thought of it, but I thought of the Colin Kaepernick situation in the NFL. For those of you that maybe remember it or familiar with it, that it was before COVID, so it must have been 6 or 7 years ago, that there was rising evidence and occurrence, video evidence and occurrence of police brutality against black and brown communities. And it was a little bit hard for people to discern, is that actually because those situations are increasing, or is that just because people have access to cell phones? So we just are becoming more aware of it. And there was so much increasing sort of polarization and discussion and dialogue and dissent about those types of situations. Eventually, Colin Kaepernick, who was a quarterback in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers, who was very concerned about increasing police brutality in the country, decided, I have to use my platform. I'm like maybe a celebrity. Like, people know me, they follow me, they listen to me, and I feel like a responsibility to use my platform to be a voice for people that are oppressed or or being abused. And so he decided he wanted to do some kind of creative way to bring light to that situation, to bring awareness to that situation and increase care to that situation. So he decided at the very beginning of the NFL season that he was going to kneel during the national anthem. And when people asked him, after the game, why did you kneel during the national anthem? He just said, I'm trying to bring awareness and light to police brutality against black and brown communities. I want it to stop. I want it to end. And he was essentially, sort of in the spirit of like civil rights leaders, was essentially saying, I don't hate this country. I actually, spirit of MLK, I actually love this country, and I'm trying to hold it accountable to reach its own ideals, to be its best version of itself. But of course, we could have a lot of dialogue about whether or not that method of bringing light to it was the right or wrong method to do it, whatever. But people essentially made the whole thing about, if you kneel, you hate the country. If you stand for the anthem, you love the country. Black and white. And the actual contents of his demonstration were completely lost. I mean, within a week or two, nobody was talking anymore about police brutality. People were just talking about, do you love the country or not love the country? You'll stand or you'll kneel. Very binary. And pretty quickly, every NFL player, I mean, everybody was having opinion. You remember this time? Everybody who had never played a game of football in their life was having strong opinions about this, and felt obligated to have strong opinions about this, from Congress to your dining room table, to the barbershop, to the grocery store line, to the gym. I mean, everybody was talking about this and having to come to some kind of opinion or conclusion about it, and it was dividing people very sharply. And it got to the point where every single NFL player, after every game, was being asked the gotcha question: do you support kneeling for the anthem? Will you stand for the anthem? Will you ever kneel for the anthem? If your teammates kneel for the anthem, what are you saying to them? I mean, every NFL player, they could not be asked a question about how they played, what the stats are, what the game was. I mean, they were just being constantly asked about this stuff. So players started exiting media availability, decreasing their interviews, because they were like, I don't want to be gotcha'd. I don't want to. If I answer yes, I'm in trouble. If I answer no, I'm in trouble. If I evade the question, I'm in trouble. There is a lose here. There's no positive way out of that question. And it got to the point where whole teams were deciding to sit out the national anthem because they didn't want to be out there in public and face the lose of the dynamics at play. They decided to avoid the gotcha question entirely. The trap that was set before them, the impossible situation set before them. Jesus didn't avoid the question. He didn't evade. He didn't decrease his media availability. He didn't hide in the locker room. He responds directly and brilliantly. And I think they all know it, which is why the last sentence of the text is what it is. They were amazed. About 99 ways to handle this situation, and he chose the one that was brilliant. He starts out by saying, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. Brief paraphrase, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. And those 6 words, without anything else, already caused disruption of every member of that audience, that complex myriad of members of that audience. They were all already disrupted by those 6 words. The Pharisees would have gasped. He indicated support. Give to Caesar. Those 3 words, that might have been all they heard. Give to Caesar. What? Excuse me? Pearls clutched. Give to Caesar? Is that what you said? Now the zealots would be reaching for their swords. What did he just say? He's not with us anymore. He's against us. He's part of the enemy crowd now. The Herodians would hear those first 3 years and they say, dang right. Give to Caesar. And then he finishes by saying, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. And they'd say, no, wait. Wait. What is Caesar sounds like there's a limit to what is Caesar's, to what Caesar owns, to what he possesses, a limiting of his scope, of his power, of his ownership, of what belongs to him, of what he has control of. Limited to what? Limited to who? Who decides the limits? the coordinators of the attack would be celebrating inside. We did it. He said it. I can't believe this. We won. He's in so much trouble. Everybody's going to hate him. And Jesus, with those 6 words, he simultaneously offends the Pharisees by acknowledging Caesar's authority while offending the Herodians by limiting the scope of that authority. Neither of them got what they wanted. And this is the disruptive lordship of Jesus. For you, for me, for us, for everyone. He's constantly disrupting. He is a king who knows the heart. It says he knew their intent. He is a king who knows the heart. He knows our desires. He knows our motives. He knows our longings. He knows our dreams. He knows what we hope for. He knows the heart. And he knows when that heart is being shared by competing kings, other authorities. And he simply will not stand for that competition. Praise God that he will not stand for that competition. And so he disrupts. He shakes loose. He comes after it. He disrupts our paradigms. He disrupts our belief systems. He disrupts our assumptions and our traditions. Any Caesar that we're allegiant to, co-equal or over him, he comes for it. He disrupts it. It's not always a person. It's not always an individual. We can actually find loyal, fully aligned allegiance to a tradition, to another person, to a family, to an idea, to a paradigm, to a theological stream, to a denomination, to a set of expectations, to a view of yourself that you hope to come true. You can be fully aligned, fully allegiant, fully submitted to it. Another little Caesar. Not the pizza. Lays claim to us and contributes to him getting less of us when we're divided in that way, allegiant to many kings. I started following Jesus in college. I was part of a campus ministry called InterVarsity Christian Fellowship. Did you graduate? Did anybody graduate? Anybody actually finish a semester of school? There's like 3 or 4 or 5. Yes? Congratulations, it's mid-May. Yes, well done surviving another semester of school. Yes, yes, you graduated? Emma graduated. So good. That was just a couple years ago for me that I was in college, not long at all. It's part of a campus ministry called InterVarsity, and I was just barely a Christian. I mean, I started following Jesus in college, so I barely understood what it meant to be Christian. I was just trying to understand what it meant to follow Jesus, what it meant to listen to him, hear his voice. That always felt sort of mysterious to me. How do you do that? How do you hear from him? How do you obey? What does he want with me and my relationships and all this kind of stuff? I was very, very new. And in those first couple years, I stumbled into sort of a paradigm or a framework that my InterVarsity chapter leaders and staff would have been horrified by. It was not their fault. I just sort of stumbled into it where in those early couple years, I just sort of settled on I think whatever the InterVarsity community or leaders invite me to do or tell me to do, that's God telling me to do it. I'll just do whatever, I hear from the Lord through this thing. So I'm fully aligned and fully allegiant and listening to this thing, and that's God, I just think that's God leading me. Now, 90% of the time, that was great. It was hugely helpful. It was a very sort of formative time in my life. And at the end of my first year, you come to April, May, there's this thing called chapter camp over the summer where we would take a week out in the woods and we'd go with our community and we would discern and pray and think about the fall and how to be used by God on campus. And our InterVarsity staff and the student leaders, I was a sophomore at the time, and they were like, you gotta come, it's so awesome, it's the best thing ever. So I was like, I'm obviously in, I'm going. And they were like, invite your friends. Invite your people in your small group, other people you're sort of doing outreach to. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll invite my friends. So I went to this guy in my small group named Sean. And I was like, Sean, are you coming to chapter camp? And he said, no, I'm still thinking about it. And I was like, what is there to think about? Come to chapter camp. Let's go to chapter camp. And he was like, well, I got this internship opportunity that's amazing, super rare. Nobody gets it. It's in my field. And I feel like God is wiring me for this occupation and field, and I think he's leading me into this career, I just feel like this internship is part of what he's doing in my journey. Like he actually wants me to do this thing. And if I do chapter camp, I lose the internship. Like I literally have to choose. I can't do both. I talked to him about doing both. They said I can't do both. And I said, man, that sounds interesting. I think you should go to chapter camp. You should 100% go to chapter camp. And he was like, I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I've been praying for a while. I've been talking to people about it. I think I'm going to do the internship. And I was like, are you serious? You're going to do the internship? He's like, yeah, I think I'm going to have to do the internship. I was like, okay. The next week we had a leadership meeting, and it was like a little check-in. Who all are you talking to and who's coming or whatever? And I was like, they were like, is Sean coming? And I was like, I don't think he's coming. And the chapter leader was like, did he say why? And I was like, I don't think Sean's a Christian. They were like, excuse me? It's the same Sean we know? It's like, yeah, I don't know. Sean does not seem to be hearing from the Lord, I was like, they were like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, he's not coming to chapter camp. They're like, is there any other reason? No, he said he's not coming to chapter camp. You're saying Sean's not a Christian because he's not coming to chapter camp? Yeah, he said he's not coming to chapter camp. He said he's not coming to chapter camp. They were like, so that's where that whole, they're like, look, bro, I think he's hearing from the Lord to go to, we're happy he's doing his internship. And I was like, excuse me? Sean is hearing from the Lord? Like, how is Sean hearing from the Lord outside of you guys? How do I do that? Teach me about that. This is the first time it sort of opened up to me, like, you can be so overly submitted, overly aligned, overly allegiant to a thing that you actually can't hear the voice of Jesus outside of it anymore. You're no longer self-critical about it at all. You're never sort of like wondering in humility, like, what do you want from me or ask from me? And again, like 95% of the time, that the voice of that stream can be healthy, positive, redemptive, good for you. But it's like if it just becomes 100% the voice of the Lord for you, well, then you're overly allegiant to it. That thing has replaced the voice of the Lord as the primary allegiance, primary alignment of your life, primary submission of your life. But on the flip side, and maybe that's you. Maybe you feel like you're overly aligned, overly allegiant, overly submissive to something, and you sort of lost the ability to hear him outside of that. But on the flip side, he is also a king who invites us to be in healthy, civil, loyal submission to temporary constructs of power that he owns and has invited us into for our benefit and good. I mean, just think about the situation he's in. Jesus is telling a crowd of poor Jews, poor oppressed Jews, that they should pay the corrupt poll tax to an unjust, ruling, murderous Caesar. That's significant. That you should pay that. You should do that. You should align with that system. You should agree to that ask, that invite. We can't use our primary allegiance to Jesus as an excuse to be constantly disloyal and unsubmitted to the leaders and rulers and systems that he owns and he has us temporarily under. I remember in 2019, I'm just telling you my stories, not you guys, just my stories, like where I messed this stuff up. But it was either the beginning of 2019 or early 2020. I was so burnt out and I was very tired. We'd been through a very difficult season. Some of you remember that. And I'd been with the Underground at that point for both, including my time in Illinois. I'd been with the Underground for about 9 years, and our policies in the Underground said that I could take a little sabbatical at the 7-year mark. So I was 2 years delayed on potentially taking a little sabbatical, and I was aware of that, but in 2017, it didn't feel right. 2018 didn't feel right. Came to 2019, I felt like maybe I've waited too long. I'm starting to get pretty cooked. I'm starting to get pretty like I maybe needed it. Maybe I waited too long. So I went to the board of directors and I asked for a sabbatical. And I was like, I think it's time. I don't think I'm going to last much longer if I don't take some serious I need to get monastic on a hill. I need to be a hermit. I need to hear from the Lord. I need to be rejuvenated, or else I'm not going to last much longer. And I didn't ask him permission to talk about this, but Sir Brian Sanders was on the board of directors at the time, and was just recently on the board of directors. And I submitted that request. I thought it was a home run. I thought like I've waited 2 years. I've waited 2 years to ask for this. So I sort of felt like, you're welcome that I waited 2 years, you know? Like, and this is obviously going to get approved. And I sent a request, and a little while later, Brian just wanted to sit. We sat down over lunch over in Clearwater, and he was not necessarily speaking on behalf of the whole board, but he was just sort of talking to me about like what do you mean you feel tired, and what does that look like for you, and how are you experiencing it, and what's contributing to that, and at the end of the conversation, he was like, look, I don't think you should go on a sabbatical, and I don't think we're going to approve that. And internally, I was like, this is infuriating, and he was like, there are types of tired that a sabbatical can help with, and there are types of tired that a sabbatical is the worst possible thing for you, because you'll probably never come back. And not just never come back to the underground, like you might not ever come back to ministry if you take a sabbatical for the wrong type of tired, the wrong type of weary. And he was like, I think this is the type of weary that the staying in the work is the best thing for you. You need the work. You need to stay in it. You need to keep your hand to the plow. It's like you're trying to buck against it, but it's like it's the thing that's going to help you heal. And so externally, I was like, interesting that you're saying that. It's very, I'm going to ponder these things, you know? I'm going to think on these things. And internally, I was like, bro, you can walk yourself right back off this board, you know? Like, internally, I was like, no way, no chance. But, so I had like a battle in myself that was essentially like, do I have the right to like hear that from the Lord myself in such a strong way that I'm going to disagree with a body of people who love Jesus and love me and are hearing something differently? And do I have the right and I'm in submission, like in every way. And do I have the right to just step out of that just because I discerned in a vacuum that it's supposed? So I had a battle of like, I didn't actually want to submit, but I just came to the conclusion like, I don't totally understand it. I don't really get it. I actually disagree with it. But I think these people really love me and always have. And I think they love Jesus and hear from him. And so I'm going to trust them. And I submitted to him. And about 1.5 years later, they gave me my sabbatical at a better time. And it was so obvious to me that it was the right move that I would have never come back if they would have gave it to me when I asked. That he was 100% right. And I couldn't see it. I was in too much pain and I couldn't see it. But I had a rubric in my head that chose submission to a thing that I didn't understand because people really loved me and had my back and were praying for me at a time that I couldn't hear clearly. He is our primary allegiance, but that's not an excuse to circumvent any type of submission. Any type of thing, any type of system, any kind of leader, any kind of idea that's for your good. It's over you for your good to say yes to it. If Emily wants to come up, I am just going to invite us here at the end just for a moment of reflection and contemplation on maybe the conviction or the word that he's saying to you. I am going to, here in just a moment, I am going to invite you to write that down, you know. Instead of, you know, sometimes I am a contemplative person, so sometimes I do like just the moment of silence, the moment of solitude, and just hear from the Lord. But I do think sometimes it's helpful if the Lord is saying something to you, if he's making something clear to you, to actually put it on a piece of, either to write it down with a piece of paper, or if you don't have a pen, that's fine, don't get up, go run for it. Just type it in your notes app or type it in a text to yourself. Get it out of you. Put it out of you in words on a thing. The thing that you feel like he's inviting for you. Every disruption from Jesus, those first 6 words, every disruption from Jesus is an invitation to the next 6 words. Give to God what is God's. He starts his answer with a disruption, the first 6 words. Give to Caesar what is Caesar's. That disrupts everybody. And he follows that disruption and conviction with an invitation give to God what is God's. And if we obey that invitation, that's the definition of repentance. So we're hearing from him in disruption. We're invited to actively respond, give to God what is God's in repentance. Before Jesus ever even gives that answer, he asks for that denarius coin. And it doesn't specify exactly who gave that up, but I always like to imagine it's the person who asked the question. You, guy, that answered the question. You got a coin in your pocket. I know you do. Get it out. Get the coin out. He holds it up and he asks, whose image is this on the coin? It's Caesar's. Whose inscription is this on the coin? It's Caesar's. The coin belongs to Caesar because it bears Caesar's image, bears Caesar's inscription. And in the same way that Matthew writes most of his gospel, he's always mirroring with Old Testament themes, Old Testament literature, Old Testament memory. And it's this hearkening back to who do humans belong to? That Genesis narrative that we were made in God's image. These coins were made in Caesar's image, but the one who holds it was made in God's image. Caesar himself was made in God's image and belongs to him. This was the pre-priming for the response that he gave. Give to Caesar what's Caesar's. Give to God what is God's. And what is God's? Everyone. It's you, it's me, it's us, it's everyone in this crowd, it's Herod, it's Caesar. Everyone belongs to God. Whether they know it, whether they name it, whether they try to belong to him, whether they're far from him, everyone belongs to God. Everything, every square inch belongs to God. Colossians will say what things that are visible or invisible. Everything belongs to him, whether rulers, powers, principalities, all things were made by him and for him, and in him all those things are held together. Everyone, everything. And so the invitation is not to place our lives and allegiance into a new king. It is to return to him what was rightfully always his, but we took. What has always been his. What only he understands. What only he knows. What he is the only worthy and qualified owner of. What he bought with a price. Your life. My life. Everything about it. Every minute, every second, every thought, every desire, every dream, every calendar, every resource, every hope, every memory belongs to him. So I want to invite you to consider with him whether or not this morning the invitation to you is that you're overly allegiant to something that you need to hear him outside of, that you need to reroot yourself in your primary allegiance with him, or whether you're under-allegiant, under-aligned, under-submitted, refusing to be submitted to good leaders, good systems, good ideas that he has you under for your good. What loyalties do you have that are assumed? They're unquestioned. They're rarely discerned with the Lord, and they would be hard to limit or break from if he asked you to. Is it a political party that you're overly allegiant to? Is it a friend group? Is it your family? Is it a theological stream? Is it a denominational tribe? Is it a church heritage? Is it your microchurch community? Is it the mission that he sent you on, that you've over-aligned yourself to? You're overly loyal and allegiant to and can't hear him anymore. Is it your own self-image, your own self-vision, your own self-expectations? What loyalties do you have that he's asking you to put down and place him in the primary seat again? Or on the other side, what are the good leaders, the good teams, the good communities? A good sense of calling, a desperate sense of mission that he is asking you to submit to. He is asking you to be loyal to. He is asking you to lay down your life down. He is asking you to be submitted to. And you've been hesitant. You've been resistant. What is that for you this morning? All our loyalties are an act of obedience from our primary allegiance to Jesus alone. We'll give you a second to discern, hear, and write it down. Write it down. Put it outside of you. Write it down.